Australia is lodging a complaint with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation today on this Tuesday, the 19th of October 2021. And our complaint reads, "My name is Charles Mackenzie and I'm the President of Infected Blood Australia, a group that supports victims of Australia's deadliest medical scandal, contaminated blood transfusions and blood products, with tens of thousands infected and affected. On Thursday, October 14, 2021, Infected Blood Australia received an email from a member of the public who we have had no previous contact with. The person who got in touch had asked ABC medical reporter Sophie Scott why it was she or the ABC hadn't properly investigated or reported on the infected blood scandal in Australia. Sophie Scott replied to the woman with the following message: "If you and your associates continue to harass me via email and social media, I will be contacting the authorities and ask them to investigate your conduct. I am not an investigative journalist at the moment. This story has been covered widely in the Australian media already. Please stop this harassment or I will take action. Sophie." We have viewed the messages sent by this member of the public to Sophie Scott, and none of it constitutes harassment, but instead demands Sophie Scott investigate Australia's contaminated blood scandal. Scott also says she will be potentially taking action against this person's associates. By that we believe she means members of Infected Blood Australia, even though the person Scott was replying to had had no previous association with us. It is true, however, that members from Infected Blood Australia have, over the years, also respectfully asked that Scott and the ABC do their jobs and investigate thousands of infections from blood transfusions. Sophie Scott, in her response, also wrongly stated that this story has been covered widely in the Australian media already. No, it hasn't. There has never been a 60 Minutes or a Four Corners, and that is the reason we have been trying to get Australia's public broadcaster, the ABC, to do their jobs and investigate. Despite being made aware of the scale of the damage, the tens of thousands of infected and affected, the ABC's investigative program, Four Corners, refused decades ago. 7:30 report and reporter Grace Tobin ditched having haemophiliacs, victims of contaminated blood treatments, on just a couple of years ago. The ABC has never once investigated hepatitis C contaminated blood transfusions or blood products. It has never once investigated Australia's worst treatment scandal, Factor VIII, with 1,400 haemophilia deaths, nor how a $140 billion company called CSL emerged from it and stopped victims having legal recourse via legal indemnities for what they had done, even though their legal indemnities were for any infections arising from Australian donated blood and not the knowing use and mixing of high-risk blood from high-risk blood donors from Southeast Asia into Australia's blood plasma supply. In addition, Sophie Scott was sent evidence by Susan, one of our members, that showed that the Australian Red Cross Blood Service, who CSL get their blood from, were advertising for blood donors in sexually explicit publications during the HIV crisis of the 1980s, and this happened after the media had reported the global threat of this deadly virus. No blood banks anywhere in the world did anything as dangerous as what the Australian Red Cross Blood Service and CSL did during the 1980s. Why did the Australian Red Cross and CSL encourage high-risk and even infectious blood donors to give blood? Blood transfusion recipients were killed by HIV and AIDS because of this. 1,400 haemophiliacs also lost their lives because of decisions like this. And thousands of Australians have been killed by hepatitis C contaminated blood transfusions, and there are survivors still going without the help and services they need. None of that has ever been covered by the ABC or widely reported by the media. And it must also be mentioned that your current chair of the ABC, Ita Buttrose, was a blood promoter in the mid-1980s, falsely telling the public that the Australian Red Cross blood was safe and reliable and that haemophilia treatments had been purified. It was untrue, and the blood supply was compromised by the deadly virus hepatitis C at the time, and the haemophilia treatments were not purified against hepatitis C. Patients would subsequently become infected and die. Survivors are in our group, with many fighting liver cancer as a result. We have previously made a complaint about the ABC's failure to investigate and report on the infected blood scandal back on the 29th of August 2017, but we're disappointed to not have heard back from the ABC. It is our understanding the that you are overhauling the ABC's complaints process. This is a very positive step because the ABC must investigate and report on Australia's deadliest medical scandal, contaminated blood, because victims are going without the help they need, and a lot of that has to do with a failure by Australia's public broadcaster to do its job. Charles Mackenzie, President of Infected Blood Australia.